Welcome, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We are delighted to be here, and we are extra delighted because it's also our first time in Ireland for both of us. So we are going to get started with our talk, Voices of Design Technology Leadership. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Argelia Barcena, and I am a Regional Design Technology Manager at Gensler. In addition to that, I also teach part-time at some universities in San Francisco, California. And not that I'm not busy enough, but I'm also one of the directors for the American Institute of Architects for the San Francisco chapter. And I am a regional lead for women in BIM. I've participated in other speaking engagements, and I've also participated as an exam writer for Autodesk Certified Professional Exam for Revit. And I'm going to pass it on to my co-speaker, Cesar.
Thank you, Argelia. My name is Cesar Escalante, Technical Marketing Manager for Autodesk. Argelia and I share very similar backgrounds. We don't share the same mother just because we were born in different countries. But we have the same years of expertise. We were born the same year. I held design technology positions in my past experiences. I worked in Gensler with Argelia. I also part of the AIA National Technology and Architectural Practice Group, which advised the AIA about what is the institutional take on the different technology advancements. I'm also a board director of the AIA San Francisco, and I am an educator as well. Love to be here. So, Argelia and I are just going to share some thought-provoking ideas on our take on what are some of the gaps in the education system, how technology has evolved over the years, where do we see that the educational system can improve curriculum, and how that translates into better high-performing teams. And Argelia.
Yes, next is, let's talk about the evolution of design technology in architecture. Going from hand-drawn plans, correct, into the boom of CAD. I happened to, in my first internship as a student, work with hand-drawn plans. So I went through this whole path myself. And then we get into the boom of BIM, which is still, even though it started almost 20 years ago, it's still evolving. We still see a gap of practitioners who do not have that skill. And after the boom of BIM came data-driven design, software tools, and they are still evolving, right? They started with something like Dynamo. They have evolved into databases, making our profession more efficient in the workflows. And now with AI booming this year, what is going to happen next year? It's like it keeps evolving. So how do we keep up with technology? And this is where Cesar is going to talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, and more importantly, technology is advancing at a very fast pace, yet, as all of you know, construction is lagging behind in innovation. Why is that? And a lot has to do in these educational challenges and the curriculum that as educators we're going to introduce. Some of the problems come from curriculum mismatch. What's taught in university doesn't match what the realities of the challenges and the positions mean. There's a lot of outdated content, outdated technology. A lot of the professors in the industry don't make technology the focus of their courses. Therefore, students are not exposed to the way technology works. There's also this lack of conversation between industry, what the industry needs, and what education requirements are. And I think opening the space for more of that conversation is key. on the practical side, the industry tends to favor students with deep resources and pockets. And so those who get exposure to corporate practice where technology is used are at a big advantage against community colleges or places where do not have enough technology resources to compete in the market. So this gap has a direct impact on how our students are prepared in the industry. And finally, the way in which technology changes creates the need to have a continuous learning, not only through school, but also through professional practice. And so this attitude of learning and unlearning is something that must be taught from the very start, foundational part of our educational system, as well as the adaptability of learning during our professional practice as well. And so some of the things we have identified as core competency to prepare the architect of the future are the following. Design validation. I think our students need to understand how to design with outcomes in mind, and that doesn't mean just to focus on meeting the program requirements of an architect, but also how to make sure that you're meeting the performance requirement based on data-driven information. Also extending this validation as far as business outcome. How do you teach students to think outside the box to reduce risk and reduce the amount of effort spent in assembling an architectural output. The other big competency is in coordination. I don't think higher institutions are doing enough to prepare a student on how to integrate information from different consultants and different geographical dispersed teams into something that can be built and coordinated spatially, digitally, and in construction. Another big area is on industrialized construction, how we can better the connection between design and construction and facilitate and speed the dots between design and construction. I think we all are waiting for this process to move at a higher pace than it is right now. And another big gap is how we train our new crop of practitioners in becoming database administrators. I don't think we're doing enough to teach students how to aggregate big data, make conclusions out of it, classify it in a way that you can make predictable decisions and connect it with the systems outside of the authoring platform. And finally, as a thread that connects all of them, it insists in reinforcing visualization technique that allows us to understand how spatially and visually all these technologies connect. And so making sure that the academia absorbs these core competencies it's not only responsibility of the academia, but other actors as well. I'll get there in a second.
We see the key competencies and values in the profession, starting with, everyone should know the fundamentals of architecture and design, as well as construction. But there are, when you get into the university level and students are not being taught the tools that we use in practice, right? There's a lack of that. And it's not every university. All universities are different. I mean, having worked at 3 different ones, I see they're all different. And some of them have excluded it completely from their curriculum, while others have created a very robust program. And the other thing that they need to learn about is enabling collaboration workflows, just like we do in the industry. So for example, when I teach my classes, I always do some role playing, and for their final project, the students get together, and each of them is a different discipline: an engineer, an architect, lighting designer, interior designer, you name it, right? Structural engineer. So, and then at the end, they collaborate on a single project, and they submit the project together. So that gives them an example of how it is done in an office. And so when they do enter the professional field, they have an idea of what to expect. And lastly, internships and mentorships. Now, this is where the companies can engage with future professionals. That's when they provide opportunities for them to do hands-on practice, right? It's not just theory, it's hands-on. And giving them proper tasks that, as a professional, they would entail on a day-to-day basis.
So bridging the gap is not only a responsibility of academia, where we have a lot of experience, but if you look at it from the high level, it's also a responsibility of those who execute policy and advocacy at a government level. Institutions like NCARB and the ARE should be doing more to include technology, the minimum technology proficiency as part of the registration process, and that discussion hasn't even started. And so if you want to be a practitioner of architecture in the United States, there's nothing in the ARE that requires any technology background, and I think that is the big impediment in making an impactful transformation in technology. It's also largely part of the business culture, a leadership that focuses technology at the core of their value makes a big difference in preparing this digital transformation. And the role of community as well. I mean, we all understand the value that it is to come to events like this, exchange information, present and show, speak, and be part of a community where you can understand how your peers are utilizing technology. And so academia, agencies, business, and community working in tandem is probably a good equation as an industry to start making tangible progress in bridging this gap.
And this takes us to creating high-performing teams. So design technology as a professional path, right? The evolution of design technology tools also brings about an evolution of roles. These roles did not exist 20 years ago. Right? So there's a whole new set of roles that are defining now our profession. And as Cesar mentioned earlier, we have almost an exact same path that 20 years in the profession, we started as architectural designers. 15 years into our career, we made the change. We always had that passion for technology too. But then you go from designer to at the time, a BIM manager, and then we eventually became strategic advisors. So now the teams come to us because they want for us to provide them a strategy on how to move forward with projects, how to plan properly, understand the requirements of clients and contracts, and how to implement that accordingly. Now, technology also opens up doors to businesses, right? You are providing innovation to clients. So if you're competing with other companies, you have more to give to them in the long run than other companies who are not as innovative. And again, the roles that I talked about.
Yeah, and at the core of this thought is that the industry needs to recognize that providing a path of specialty in design technology it's a good way to build a career, and a lot of us have come to this by chance, and I think there's got to be a greater acknowledgement that if you have the ability to learn for life technology skills, you should be provided with a professional path that is recognizable by the industry, by our peers, by our government and our system, credential system. So learn for life is one of the traits that this path of professional specialty requires. And a lot of things that we, as we have grown in different type of companies, is that if you want to grow in this industry, you need to understand when you have hit a ceiling and you cannot grow more. Design technology positions are usually a small crop of people at a leadership that are very hard to move upwards. And so either you find a new role that suits your abilities, and if you cannot grow anymore, then there's this need to change. Sometimes those are hard decisions, but sometimes those are the best decisions to grow at a higher level. Get involved in your professional community and speak is also part of what this path requires.
Yeah, this is a path of, the unicorns that we call in our industry, right? People who bring the design skills and also bring the technology skills. It's the perfect combination. Let's talk about the drivers have changed now, right? We have 5 up here, and I'm going to talk about how they overlap with each other, or how should they overlap with each other if they don't already. We have, let's say, an architecture firm that has a design technology team, and we have a recruiter, universities, and professional organizations, right? So first, let's focus on the recruiter. Oftentimes, the recruiter works directly with the firm without involving the design technology team, meaning people might get hired and they don't have the skills to deliver the work. They have design skills, but they cannot do it, right? They cannot show it on paper or on screen these days. And that's why it's important to connect with them to make sure they cover all the requirements for a role. Now, we have universities. Universities who hire professional practitioners as professors are better off because those people bring in the latest trends from the profession, whereas if somebody's teaching and they've never practiced or they haven't practiced for, I don't know, a decade, 2 decades, right? They are still in the traditional way of teaching, so the students don't come out prepared. So that's where the connection happens, and then also the connection with the firm and the universities and recruiting people. Now, the third one is professional organizations. Cesar mentioned a few of them. We have the licensing agencies, organizations in various countries. We also have, for example, the American Institute of Architects that now has adopted technology as one of their delivery practices as well. So, and having, us are there as directors, both of us, that's very important. That's something that did not exist before. So seeing them, adapt to it and welcome it into this organization is very important because that means they're going to implement it. It's industry-wide, right? And then lastly, the client. So we are looking for clients who are innovative, who are more sophisticated, right? And we oftentimes find them. A lot of times it's the government clients who are looking for more, let's say, BIM-related projects, for facilities management, but more and more it's private clients too, who know the importance of this. And I'm going to talk about really quickly about a case study in which one of the universities that I taught at, they didn't have any curriculum for, at the time, BIM. And it was supposed to be a summer program for working professionals. The department head of the architecture school reached out to me and asked me if I could build a curriculum for the school, which I did. And eventually my curriculum became books. But what we did is we brought in a general contractor too, and we brought in a consulting firm who specializes in architecture in the AC industry, really. And so together, we built a curriculum for the long term of the school. And now it's been in place for more than 10 years. And so having the department head reach out to the industry that way was a perfect example of how it should be done, putting their students up for success. And at the center of it all, we know that we want excellence in everything. We want innovation, we want design skills, we want efficiency, leadership, and of course, profit, right? So all of these bring excellence. One very strong phrase said by one of my students was this. So Revit in its nuances was the most valuable thing I learned on this course. I had steered clear of Revit before, as we kept getting told in design studio classes that anything Revit was not acceptable. So this is not acceptable, right? They're being told not to innovate. And we're gonna continue the conversation in the Q&A. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thanks everyone.